Now it's my pleasure to introduce our second Vice President, Jim Porter.
Thank you, and hello, Charlotte. Wow, what a crowd. You know, the excitement in this room reminds me of the crowds at Old Legion Field. For you Yankees, that's where the University of Alabama won many of its most thrilling football games, where Paul Bear Bryant roamed the sidelines in that famous houndstooth hat. I never played for Coach Bryant. I practiced for him. Back then, freshmen wasn't eligible to play, but we were eligible to serve as practice dummies. As you may have guessed, I was a pretty big kid. So every day at practice, I had to go 1-on-3 against our starting center and 2 offensive guards. I managed to win a few of those battles, but I also got 5 pins in my shoulder, which ended my playing career. I still carry those pins around today. Coach Bryant was imposing, extremely well organized. He planned for every possibility. His team never saw or did anything in a game that hadn't been practiced. Rarely were he or his team surprised. Kind of like Wayne LaPierre. You know, I've known Wayne for some 30 years. I've been amazed to watch him outsmart anti-gun politicians, outwit the gun control lobby, and outfox the anti-freedom news media. And he's built an NRA as well organized as any Bear Bryant team, prepared for every possibility, poised for every opportunity for success. I'm proud to say that under Wayne's leadership, we now have the most professional staff in the history of NRA. Many of them are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, these folks go to work every single day to fight for our freedom. I want to make sure their efforts are not overlooked. I'd like to ask every staff member to please stand up. Chris, Wayne, you stand up too. And Woody. Thank you. I know the staff would be the first to say that none of our success would be possible without the dedication of you and your fellow NRA members. You make the phone calls, send the letters and emails, walk the precincts, and help get out the vote. You shoot and hunt and demonstrate the value of responsible gun ownership. You support the NRA with your work, your will, and your wallet. Because of you, our nation has witnessed its greatest advancement of Second Amendment freedom since the Bill of Rights was written. And come November, we're going to prove that we're not done yet. This leads me to one of the most important things you'll hear today. It's my dearest hope that every person in this room heeds my message. Our freedom depends on it. 2 years ago, the United States Supreme Court ruled under the Second Amendment, every law-abiding citizen had an individual right to own a firearm for personal protection. It should have been a landmark decision, putting to rest once and for all the debate about what the Second Amendment means. But anti-gun mayors and city council members have spent the last 2 years parsing and twisting that decision, distorting its meaning to deny lawful citizens their Second Amendment rights. Next month, the court will rule again on the Second Amendment. Now, I'm just a country lawyer from Alabama, and I don't want to say anything today that might offend anyone. But I will say one thing. There's an election in November. I'm going to be at the voting booth that day, and I know you'll be there too. And for all those anti-gun mayors, council members, state legislators, governors, congressmen, and dog catchers, If you're standing in the way of our freedom today, get your resumes ready, because when the sun goes down on Election Day, you'll be looking for a new job. Now that's important, but it's not the most important thing I have to say today. There's a critical message that all of us must heed. I'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to talk to you about mashed potatoes and ice cream. That's right, mashed potatoes and ice cream, and a true legacy. From the time I was born, I was raised on the NRA. I know a lot of you grew up in the NRA too. For the first 18 years of my life, I spent every summer at Camp Perry. My dad was a pretty darn good shot and a terrific father who let me tag along even at a young age. I loved those summers. Back then, Camp Perry was run by the U.S. Army, which meant it was parades in the morning, cocktails in the afternoon, and mashed potatoes and ice cream for dinner. For a kid like me, it was great. More importantly, those summers were how my dad began to ensure his legacy to me. Some of y'all knew Dad. Irvin C. Porter joined the NRA board in 1953 and was elected NRA president in 1959. Later, he was bestowed the distinction of Honorary Life Member. To follow in his footsteps as an NRA officer humbles me. And even though he's not here to see his son on this stage, I know he'd be proud. Proud of me and of the legacy of freedom he passed on to me. Dad served with great leaders of his generation. Leaders like Harlan Carter, Joe Foss, John Dingell, George Whittington, Alice Bull, and others. They were revolutionary fighters at a time when NRA needed them most. Thomas Jefferson wrote that every generation needs its own revolution. For my father and his colleagues, revolution came in Cincinnati at the 1977 NRA Annual Meeting. Had it not been for the revolt in Cincinnati, we wouldn't be here this morning. Back then, NRA had reached a critical crossroad. Some thought NRA should focus solely on wildlife, conservation, and habitat, that NRA should be a sort of national hunt club. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a lifelong hunter, and I'm proud of the fact that no other organization does more to preserve hunting, protect access to hunting lands, and promote responsible wildlife conservation than the NRA. But at that Cincinnati meeting, the Gun Control Act of 1968 was the law of the land. And it just about put NRA out of business for good. Think about what our rights might look like today without the NRA. That meeting, that 1977 meeting, was literally a fight over the direction of our organization and future of our freedom. My dad was asked to chair the members' meeting. He called it to order at 7:30 in the evening. It lasted a full 8 hours, and Dad, gavel and microphone in hand, never left his feet. Could have easily gotten out of hand, and there were some heated exchanges. Order was maintained. When it was over, the revolutionaries had won. Harlan Carter was named executive vice president. Control of the organization had been restored to its members, and the way had been paid for the establishment of NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. A few years and a lot of hard work later, the '68 Gun Control Act was replaced by the McClure-Volkmer Gun Owners Protection Act. And since then, right to carry is law in 40 states. Hunter protection laws are on the book in all 50 states. And more law-abiding Americans own more guns and shoot than ever before in history.